Sometimes before the blessing comes, before the breakthrough arrives, before the opportunity shows up, God pulls you back. He places you in a season of silence, a season where you feel set apart, left out, even forgotten. But that isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. He removes you from the noise so you can finally hear his voice. He takes you out of the crowd so you can see who you really are without comparison, without distraction, without influence. It feels lonely, but loneliness has a purpose. It's in that quiet space that strength is built, patience is sharpened, and faith is stretched. God knows if he gave you the blessing while you were surrounded by everything and everyone, you might miss the lesson that comes before the blessing. You might think it was your connections, your circle, your status that brought you through, when really it was his hand guiding you the whole time. The isolation is where he cleanses your perspective, where he cuts away what you don't need, and where he shows you what truly matters. He hides you not because you're unworthy, but because you're too valuable to be exposed before the right time. Diamonds don't shine until they're cut. Seeds don't grow until they're buried, and blessings don't manifest until the preparation is complete. So when God isolates you, it's not rejection, it's protection. It's him saying, I need you away from certain voices, certain environments, certain patterns, because where I'm taking you requires clarity, humility, and strength you can't gain in the crowd. He knows the weight of the blessing, and he won't let you step into it until you're ready to carry it. You may not understand the season, you may not like the silence, but one day you'll look back and thank him for pulling you aside, because what felt like isolation was actually elevation in disguise. The blessing wasn't delayed, it was being developed. And when it finally comes, you'll know without a doubt it was God all along. Sometimes before the blessing comes, before the breakthrough arrives, before the opportunity shows up, God pulls you back. He places you in a season of silence, a season where you feel set apart, left out, even forgotten. But that isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. He removes you from the noise so you can finally hear his voice. He takes you out of the crowd so you can see who you really are without comparison, without distraction, without influence. It feels lonely, but loneliness has a purpose. It's in that quiet space that strength is built, patience is sharpened, and faith is stretched. God knows if he gave you the blessing while you were surrounded by everything and everyone, you might miss the lesson that comes before the blessing. You might think it was your connections, your circle, your status that brought you through, when really it was his hand guiding you the whole time. The isolation is where he cleanses your perspective, where he cuts away what you don't need, and where he shows you what truly matters. He hides you not because you're unworthy, but because you're too valuable to be exposed before the right time. Diamonds don't shine until they're cut. Seeds don't grow until they're buried. And blessings don't manifest until the preparation is complete. So when God isolates you, it's not rejection, it's protection. It's him saying, I need you away from certain voices, certain environments, certain patterns, because where I'm taking you requires clarity, humility, and strength you can't gain in the crowd. He knows the weight of the blessing, and he won't let you step into it until you're ready to carry it. You may not understand the season. You may not like the silence, but one day you'll look back and thank him for pulling you aside. Because what felt like isolation was actually elevation in disguise. The blessing wasn't delayed, it was being developed. And when it finally comes, you'll know without a doubt it was God all along. God isolates you because he knows how easy it is to lose yourself when too many voices are speaking into you. He knows how quickly the world can drown out his whisper. He knows how fast we attach our value to people, to applause, to likes, to recognition. So he steps in and says, I'm going to set you apart for a moment. I'm going to strip away the noise, the distractions, the unnecessary opinions, so you can rediscover who you are in me. It's in that separation where you begin to see yourself differently. At first, you may feel abandoned, like the world has forgotten you, like doors have closed and opportunities have disappeared. But slowly, you begin to notice something shifting inside you. The anger doesn't control you the same way. The fear doesn't paralyze you as much. The things you used to chase don't seem so important anymore. And you realize God has been transforming you quietly while no one was watching. Think about it. Every major figure that God used, he first isolated. Joseph was taken from his family, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and even thrown into prison. All of that isolation was grooming him for the palace. David was pulled out of the fields, away from the noise, away from his brothers, to shepherd sheep alone. In that solitude, he learned courage, he learned worship, he learned how to fight lions and bears, lessons he would need when it was time to face Goliath. Even Jesus himself withdrew often, escaping the crowds, spending nights in prayer alone with the Father. Isolation has always been part of preparation. And if it was necessary for them, why wouldn't it be necessary for you? Why would we expect to step into blessings without seasons of refinement? Why would we demand the promise without the process? God isolates you because he knows without that process, the blessing might crush you instead of carry you. When God pulls you back, it can feel like life is unfair. Doors close that you thought were meant for you. People walk away who you thought would always stay. Opportunities you prayed for don't come when you expected them to. But sometimes God withholds, not because he doesn't love you, but because he loves you too much to give you something prematurely. A gift in the wrong season can feel like a curse. He's not just preparing the blessing for you. He's preparing you for the blessing. Isolation forces you to confront parts of yourself you could ignore when you were busy. It puts a mirror in front of your soul. Suddenly you see the pride you never dealt with, the bitterness you've been carrying, the fears you've been masking. And God says, let's work on this now so it doesn't sabotage where I'm sending you. He's pruning you so you can bear fruit later. And let's be honest, it hurts. It's uncomfortable to be stripped. It's painful to feel hidden. But what hurts now will heal you later. Just like a surgeon cuts to heal, God isolates to restore. You think you're alone, but really you're in his hands more than ever. Sometimes God isolates you because the people around you can't go where you're going. Not everyone can handle the level you're about to step into. Not everyone can celebrate you without envy, support you without conditions, or walk with you without pulling you back. He has to separate you so he can elevate you. If he didn't, the wrong people would have access to blessings that weren't meant for them. So he lets some friendships fade. He closes some doors. He removes certain connections. And while you mourn those losses, he's actually making room for divine appointments you haven't met yet. Isolation also teaches you dependence. When you don't have a crowd, when you don't have applause, when you don't have people cheering you on, you learn how to rely on God and God alone. You discover he's enough. You discover his strength in your weakness. You discover his presence in your silence. And that kind of dependence builds a faith that nothing can shake. Think of the seed again, buried in darkness, unseen, untouched. But what's happening in the soil? Roots are forming, foundations are deepening. Growth is taking place underground where no one can see it. Then, in the right season, the seed breaks through the surface. Suddenly, everyone notices the tree, the fruit, the beauty, but they forget the hidden season that made it possible. That's what isolation is. It's your underground season. People may not notice you now, but when God brings you forth, they'll wonder how you became so strong. And you'll know it was because of the roots that formed in your hidden season. So when you're in isolation, don't despise it. Don't rush it. Don't waste it. Ask God, what are you teaching me here? What are you building in me here? What are you preparing me for? Because the sooner you embrace the process, the stronger you'll be when the blessing comes. Isolation reveals your motives. When nobody is watching, when nobody is applauding, when nobody even cares, will you still be faithful? Will you still pray? Will you still serve? Will you still worship? Will you still chase the vision God gave you when there's no recognition? If your heart is pure in the hidden place, you'll be ready to carry the blessing in the public place. God isolates you not to take from you, but to give to you. He wants to give you peace, clarity, discernment, wisdom, strength, but those gifts are best received in quiet places. He wants to give you boldness, confidence, endurance, but those muscles are only built in solitude. And once he's given you those things privately, he'll showcase them publicly. The truth is, isolation is a test of trust. Do you trust his timing? Do you trust his methods? Do you trust that his silence is still love? Because when you trust him in the dark, you'll celebrate him in the light. And maybe right now you're asking, why me? Why do I feel so disconnected? Why does it seem like everyone else is moving ahead while I'm stuck? Remember, this isolation doesn't mean you're behind. It means you're being refined. It means God cares enough about your destiny to pause you, to protect you, to prepare you. You're not overlooked. You're being overseen. You're not forgotten. You're being focused. You're not abandoned. You're being aligned. When the blessing finally arrives, you'll see why he took you through isolation first. You'll have the maturity to handle it, the humility to steward it, and the gratitude to never forget where it came from. And those who watched you disappear for a season will be shocked when they see you reappear, stronger, wiser, bolder, and carrying blessings that only God could have given. When God isolates you, it often feels like subtraction. It feels like you're losing people, losing opportunities, losing visibility, losing momentum. But in reality, he's adding to you. He's adding character. He's adding wisdom. He's adding depth. He's adding something you can't always measure yet, but something you'll desperately need later. Think about how a tree grows. The first thing that happens isn't the trunk shooting up, it's the roots going down. And while the roots grow, nothing visible seems to happen. To the outside eye, it looks like nothing is changing, like nothing is growing, but below the surface, everything is happening. That's what your isolation is. It's root work. Isolation is also God's way of detoxing your spirit. Sometimes we don't even realize how many toxic voices we've been absorbing, how many opinions we've allowed to shape our identity, how much negativity we've carried because we kept surrounding ourselves with it. God has to pull you out of that environment so he can purify your mind and reset your heart. And it's never easy because detox always hurts. If you've ever broken a habit, you know the withdrawals can be brutal. When God isolates you, there's a withdrawal too. You miss the people, you miss the noise, you miss the comfort of routine. But just like cleansing the body makes you healthier, cleansing the spirit makes you stronger. Sometimes isolation doesn't even feel spiritual. It feels ordinary. You're at home more than usual. Your phone isn't ringing as much, invitations stop coming, work slows down, and you think life has turned against you. But those ordinary pauses are God's extraordinary classrooms. He teaches you in the stillness. He reveals things you couldn't hear when you were constantly moving. He gives you creative ideas you never would have thought of when you were busy. He stirs up dreams you buried years ago. And if you lean into that season instead of fighting it, you'll discover it wasn't a punishment at all. It was a gift. Think of how gold is refined. It's put in the fire and everything impure is burned away. But that process happens in a furnace, not in public view. Nobody celebrates the gold while it's melting. Nobody applauds the process. The applause comes later when the final product shines. Your isolation is your furnace. Nobody's cheering for you right now. Nobody's seeing what you're going through, but God is burning away everything that can't stay with you in the next season. And if we're honest, sometimes we resist isolation because we crave validation. We want to be seen. We want to be noticed. We want to feel like our efforts are appreciated. And when God hides us, it feels like rejection. But he hides you because the validation you're craving isn't enough for the destiny he's preparing. If you build your identity on applause, the same applause can destroy you when it stops. So God takes you through isolation to free you from the need for constant approval. He teaches you to stand firm even when no one claps. He teaches you to trust his voice even when no one else affirms you. And that's freedom, because when you finally walk into your blessing, you won't need people to validate it. You'll already know who sent it. God's isolation is also his way of training you for resilience, because the truth is blessings don't erase challenges. The higher you go, the heavier the responsibility becomes. If you're promoted at work, the pressure increases. If your business expands, the challenges multiply. If your ministry grows, the attacks intensify. Blessings don't remove battles, they increase them. And so God isolates you first to toughen your spirit, to prepare you for the weight of what's coming. He lets you wrestle with discouragement so you'll know how to fight it later. He lets you face loneliness so you'll learn how to find strength within. He lets you deal with disappointment so you'll know how to bounce back. What feels like God leaving you is actually God equipping you. Sometimes isolation is God's way of protecting your blessing from premature exposure. Have you ever noticed how photographers develop film in a dark room? If that image is exposed to light too soon, it gets ruined. The picture doesn't disappear, it just doesn't come out right. That's what God does with you. He puts you in a dark room, a hidden place, because he knows if he exposes you to the spotlight too soon, your blessing could be damaged. The world might see you before you're ready. The opportunity might crush you instead of carrying you. So he develops you in the dark until you're strong enough to handle the light. There's another reason God isolates you. It's to help you recognize his voice above all others. When you're surrounded by constant chatter, you can't always tell which voice is his. People will speak, culture will speak, fear will speak, temptation will speak, and you'll start confusing their voices with God's. But when he pulls you away, when he cuts off some of the noise, suddenly his voice becomes clearer. You begin to hear him whisper direction. You begin to sense his guidance in ways you didn't before. And that clarity becomes priceless later when you're in the middle of making decisions that will affect generations. Isolation also reveals loyalty, both yours and the loyalty of those around you. You learn quickly who's there for the season and who's there for the journey. You learn who loved you for what you could do for them and who loves you simply for who you are. Sometimes isolation doesn't just expose your heart, it exposes theirs. And though it may hurt to discover some people weren't meant to stay, it's better to learn that truth in isolation than to carry them with you into a blessing they can't be trusted with. Don't be surprised if in your season of isolation, people misunderstand you. They'll say you've changed. They'll think you're ignoring them. They may assume you've fallen off or that you've failed. Let them think it. They can only see what's visible, but they don't see what's happening beneath the surface. You don't owe everyone an explanation for your season. What God is doing in you doesn't always need to be explained. It needs to be embraced. And yes, isolation is uncomfortable. You'll feel like you're in a waiting room with no clock. You'll feel like you're on pause while everyone else is on play. But remember, God doesn't waste seasons. If he has you waiting, it's because he's preparing something worth waiting for. He's aligning circumstances, shifting hearts, and positioning opportunities you can't even see yet. And when it finally comes together, you'll realize why the wait was necessary. So instead of resenting the season, start respecting it. Instead of asking, when will this be over? Start asking, what can I learn while I'm here? Because the more you lean into what he's teaching you in isolation, the more prepared you'll be when the doors open again. And here's the thing, when those doors open, they won't open slightly, they'll swing wide. When the blessing comes, it won't trickle in, it'll pour. And you'll realize that the season of being hidden wasn't wasted at all. It was building you for that very moment. You'll step into opportunities you're now ready for. You'll embrace relationships with a wiser heart. You'll walk in rooms you used to dream about, carrying confidence that comes from knowing you've been prepared in the dark. The truth is, isolation is love in disguise. It doesn't feel like love when you're in it, but it is. Because only a loving father would pull you aside to prepare you. Only a loving God would risk being misunderstood by you to protect you. Only a loving creator would care enough to delay your blessing until you're ready to carry it. And maybe right now, you feel like you're stuck in that hidden season. Maybe you feel like doors keep closing. Maybe you feel like you're walking alone. But let me remind you, this is not the end of your story. This is the middle, and the middle often feels messy, but it's necessary. Don't give up in the middle. Don't quit during the preparation, because the same God who isolated you is the same God who will bless you. And when he does, you'll understand why the isolation was the greatest gift you never asked for. When God isolates you, he is not just putting distance between you and others. He's closing the gap between you and him. That's why it feels so quiet. That's why you feel unseen, because he wants you to rely on his presence, not theirs. He wants your ears tuned to his whisper, not their noise. And if you can endure the silence, you'll start to realize it's not silence at all. It's his spirit shaping, correcting, softening, reminding you of things you would have missed if you were surrounded by distractions. Isolation can feel like being overlooked, but in truth, it's God putting his hand on you in a way that no one else can. He knows the exact timing for your unveiling. He knows when the blessing will be the most fruitful, the most impactful, the most undeniable. If he releases it too early, it might be wasted. But if he holds you a little longer in that hidden place, the blessing won't just come, it will overflow. Think of Noah. God asked him to build an ark in the middle of nowhere, with no storm in sight, no rain on the horizon. He spent years working in obscurity, mocked by others, misunderstood by his generation. Yet in that isolation, Noah was building salvation. When the flood finally came, the same people who dismissed him wished they had listened. Isolation feels like wasted effort until the storm comes, and then everyone sees why God had you preparing in silence. Maybe that's where you are, building something no one understands, holding on to a dream nobody sees, preparing for a season that hasn't arrived yet, and it feels pointless, but it isn't. God wouldn't have given you the assignment if he didn't plan to bring the rain. He wouldn't have hidden you if he didn't plan to reveal you. Every hidden season has an appointed time of release. God also isolates you because comparison is dangerous. If you measure your progress against someone else's timeline, you'll miss your own purpose. So he pulls you away, not because he wants you to feel small, but because he wants you to focus on what he's uniquely doing in you. The moment you stop comparing, you start growing. The moment you stop looking sideways, you start moving forward. Isolation helps break the addiction to comparison. So when the blessing finally arrives, you're not looking around, you're looking up. And in that looking up, your faith grows. Faith doesn't grow in crowds, it grows in caves. Faith doesn't grow when everyone agrees with you. It grows when you feel alone and you have no choice but to trust God's word over your feelings. That's why some of your most powerful prayers come out of your loneliest nights. That's why some of your deepest worship comes when tears are streaming down your face. Because isolation presses you into a faith you didn't know you had. And that faith becomes the foundation that carries your blessing later. Sometimes God isolates you so he can teach you new skills. Think of David in the fields with the sheep. While everyone else was on the battlefield, he was practicing with a slingshot, writing songs in the night, developing courage nobody else was paying attention to. And when the moment came to face Goliath, those hidden skills became public victory. If you're in a hidden season right now, don't despise the practice. Don't overlook the small things God is teaching you. Because one day, what you learned in private will defeat giants in public. And isn't it true that some of your best growth happened when nobody was clapping for you? Some of your strongest breakthroughs happened when nobody was watching. That's because God knows the value of secret growth. He knows the beauty of development in the shadows. And he's not rushing to show you off because he's more interested in your strength than your spotlight. Isolation also teaches endurance. It's one thing to run when the crowd is cheering. It's another to keep running when no one even knows you're in the race. Can you keep showing up when no one notices? Can you keep praying when no one claps? Can you keep building when no one encourages you? That's the kind of endurance God is after, because blessings don't just require talent, they require stamina. And stamina is forged in seasons where quitting looks easier, but you choose to keep going anyway. Some of you are in a season where doors keep closing. You apply and nothing happens. You reach out and no one responds. You knock and it stays shut. It's frustrating. But sometimes closed doors are God's greatest gifts, because if you walked through them, you'd find yourself in rooms that weren't prepared for you. You'd find yourself in places that would drain you instead of grow you. So instead of mourning every closed door, start thanking God for his protection. If the door didn't open, it's because there's something better he's preparing. And in the meantime, he'll keep you hidden. Not because you're forgotten, but because he wants your roots deep before your branches wide. He wants your faith steady before your platform strong. It's your heart pure before your influence spreads. And the only way to do that is through isolation. Think of Moses. 40 years in the desert, hidden away, forgotten by Egypt. Yet in that desert, he was being transformed from a man of impulse into a man of obedience, from a man who ran from failure into a man who led people out of slavery. Those years of isolation looked wasted, but they were holy preparation. And when the time came, God used him to do something history still remembers. That's what God is doing in you. He's preparing you for something bigger than you imagine, something heavier than you think you can carry. That's why the isolation feels so long. That's why it feels so painful. Because the weight of the blessing requires a deeper strength. And here's what's beautiful. When you finally step into that blessing, you won't resent the isolation anymore. You'll be grateful for it. You'll look back and realize those lonely nights taught you how to pray. Those closed doors taught you how to trust. Those hidden seasons taught you how to stay humble. Those painful moments taught you how to rely on God instead of people. And you'll thank Him for every second He pulled you aside, because isolation wasn't the end of your story. It was the chapter that set up the rest. It was the part no one applauded, but it's the part that made everything else possible. And when the blessing comes, you'll carry it with grace, with strength, with wisdom, because you've been prepared in ways the world never saw. God isolates you because He knows what you can't see. He knows the weight of the calling on your life. He knows the enemies waiting ahead. He knows the pressures attached to your blessing. And He loves you too much to send you forward unprepared. That's why isolation feels heavy. It's training for what you don't even realize you'll face. You think you're just waiting, but you're actually strengthening. You think you're forgotten, but you're actually being fortified. It's like the eagle. When an eagle learns to fly, the mother doesn't push it straight into the sky. She stirs the nest, making it uncomfortable, forcing the eaglet to the edge. Then she lets it fall alone, wings untested, flapping in fear. But in that isolation, the wings grow strong. The muscles that were never used begin to flex. And by the time the mother catches it, the eaglet has learned something it couldn't have learned sitting safely in the nest. It can fly. That's what God is doing with you. He pushes you out of the nest of comfort into the free fall of faith, not to destroy you, but to awaken what He put inside you. In isolation, you also learn patience. Patience isn't just waiting, it's how you wait. Do you wait with trust or with frustration? Do you wait with faith or with fear? Patience is proof of maturity, and God knows that without patience, blessings will become burdens. Because blessings don't always show up instantly. Some blessings require time to unfold. Some blessings require seasons to mature. And if you can't wait with trust in the hidden season, you'll mishandle the blessing in the revealed season. That's why He isolates you, to stretch your patience into strength. Sometimes God isolates you because the old you can't walk into the new season. The way you thought, the habits you had, the patterns you lived in, they won't fit where He's taking you. So he takes you into isolation to strip them off. That's why you feel like you're being broken down. It's because you are. Not broken to be destroyed, but broken to be rebuilt. Broken so the best version of you can rise. Broken so the blessing doesn't rest on a shaky foundation. And isn't it true that the most painful seasons of your life also turned out to be the most shaping? The heartbreaks that made you stronger. The losses that deepened your compassion. The failures that taught you humility. Isolation works the same way. It doesn't feel good, but it is good. It pulls things out of you that you didn't even know were there. Courage you didn't know you had. Creativity you didn't think you carried. Resilience you didn't realize was built in you. When God isolates you, He's also teaching you that His presence is enough. Because as long as you think you need the approval of people to survive, you'll be limited by their opinions. As long as you think you need a crowd to validate you, you'll be chained to their applause. But when you go through isolation, you discover that even without the crowd, you're still standing. Even without the recognition, you're still valuable. Even without the noise, you're still seen. You realize that the God who walks with you in silence is more than enough. Look at Elijah. After calling down fire from heaven, after standing boldly in front of kings and prophets, he still ended up in a cave, isolated, discouraged, questioning everything. And in that cave, God didn't speak to him through fire or earthquake or wind. He spoke in a whisper. Isolation teaches you how to hear the whisper, because the whisper carries intimacy. And once you've learned how to hear Him in the whisper, you'll never doubt Him in the noise. And maybe right now your cave feels endless. Maybe your prayers feel unanswered. Maybe your efforts feel unnoticed. But remember, caves don't last forever. They are temporary hiding places that birth permanent strength. The same God who met Elijah in the cave is the same God meeting you in your hidden place. Sometimes God isolates you because He wants to restore your identity. Too often, we build our identity on things that can be taken away: jobs, relationships, achievements, titles. And when those things shift, we feel like we lose ourselves. So God pulls us back to remind us, you are mine before you are anything else. You are loved before you perform. You are chosen before you succeed. You are valuable even in silence. Isolation strips away the false label so you can finally wear the one He gave you: beloved, chosen, called. And you might ask, if this is really God's plan, why does it feel so hard? Because pressure produces diamonds. Because resistance builds muscle. Because weight creates strength. Nothing valuable is ever formed without some kind of struggle. Seeds push through soil. Babies push through birth. Gold passes through fire, and your blessing passes through isolation. The truth is, you don't grow when everything is easy. You grow when it's hard. You grow when you're challenged. You grow when you're stretched. That's why isolation feels uncomfortable, because it's pulling you into growth you wouldn't choose on your own. But here's the hope. When the season shifts, you'll come out different. You won't be the same person who walked into isolation. You'll come out with a stronger faith, with a clearer vision, with a deeper wisdom. You'll come out able to handle blessings without losing yourself. You'll come out able to face challenges without breaking. You'll come out with a testimony that says, what I thought was breaking me was actually making me. So if you're in isolation, don't despise it. Don't rush it. Don't curse it. Embrace it, because this is where God is writing your preparation story. This is where he's shaping you for blessings bigger than you imagined. This is where he's showing you that being hidden isn't the same as being forgotten. This is where he's proving that silence isn't absence, it's intimacy. So if you find yourself in a season where God has pulled you aside, where it feels like the phone is silent, the doors are closed, and the crowd has disappeared, don't mistake that for abandonment. It's preparation, it's protection, it's love. Because he's not punishing you, he's positioning you. He's not hiding you forever, he's hiding you until the time is right. And when that time comes, when the blessing finally unfolds, you'll realize that the isolation wasn't wasted at all. It was the very thing that shaped you into the person who could carry it. Trust the process, trust his timing, and trust that even in the silence, he's working for your good.